One of the things that I did, I was on that trolling motor. I've got that power pole charged trolling motor, super fast and super quiet, so I can cruise those shallows, cover a ton of water really fast, really quiet. And I'm actually visually looking for those fish, those sight fish. So I needed a search bait. I needed a couple different baits in my lineup that I could cover that water with and not just kill time while I'm looking, but actually keep a bait in the water, keep a rod in my hand, and catch some of those pre-spawners, those fish that weren't moved up yet and actually spawning, but were staging on those floating docks. Lake Murray has a ton of docks, a ton of bank shoreline cover for fish to move up and stage on before they actually move up. And I used a line through swim bait similar to this B6 by Big Bite. It was a bait that you could skip around those floating docks. I could throw on shade lines, 45-degree banks, any type of bank that I saw or any type of cover that I saw that I thought a fish might be sitting by, getting staged up to spawn that was pre-spawn. I would throw this, and I weighed in two of the fish that I weighed in that tournament on a line through swim bait like this. The other bait that I threw a ton while I was covering water was that topwater, Reaction Innovations Vixen. It's a pretty good sized topwater, and it did a few things. You had bluegill spawning at that time. You had, again, those pre-spawners that were sitting up in the water column sunning, so they're going to react to a topwater. Those two baits I would rotate while I was looking, and that was a very big key for me to keep something in the water while I was covering water looking for those sight fish. When I did find one on bed, the biggest thing in choosing a bait and bait selection is finding something that appeals to that fish's reaction to keep and protect that nest. And the big bite fighting frog imitates a ton of different things. It swims down with those paddle feet. It swims down really good like a bluegill. When it's down there on the bottom and you've got it Texas rigged, it kind of looks like a crawfish. So you're imitating a few different things that really affects that fish's instinct to protect that bed. And that big bite fighting frog really does it for me. It's the best sight fishing bait that I've found. I tend to go with natural colors. Again, I'm trying to be the most natural presentation to them. I will have a white one in my pocket occasionally to show that fish something different, or if that fish is not really wanting to react to this, I can pop that bait up in front of that fish's mouth and I can see that bait when it's white. That's the only time that I really go with anything other than a natural color. This one right here is called Tilapia Magic. Again, it'll mimic a ton of different things just by choosing a natural color like this. If I found a fish that was very, very hard to catch, wasn't really acting right, matter of fact, the last big one that I caught on the last day was a 6+ pounder, and it never would get up there on the bed. It was real lethargic acting. It was probably really fresh and new. Hadn't really committed. You want something very finesse-like, very less intrusive, and that's when I would go with a drop shot with the Big Bites Cliffhanger. It had the sensation mix put into the plastic, so it's got that scent appeal as well. Again, this is something that you can move in close to that fish and shake in front of his face and really entice the fish to bite a bait when he's not really aggressive. When they're aggressive and they're chasing stuff off and they're really, protective, big bite fighting frog's hard to beat. But whenever you have to be very subtle, it's hard to beat a drop shot whenever they're on the bed. Again, it can be, a fish that's been caught before, or a fish that's just moved up, a fish in super clear water that has seen a bunch of stuff, seen a bunch of boats, had a lot of pressure. Lake Murray's a lake that gets a ton of pressure, so that's the reason why I would keep a drop shot bait like this in my rotation.